Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back, hour number 2 of Sports Talk, and let me get it rolling by rolling through the South Carolina Shrine Bowl roster, the 44 players picked for this year's game, December 19th at Gibbs Stadium at Wofford. Coach Wayne Green, the head coach of the Sandlappers for this year. Here are the selections. I have them listed by their positions. Athletes, Jordan Fair of McBee, Yafari Wirtz of Newberry, and Brandon Tillman of River Bluff. Defensive backs, Jalen Foster Burns, KJ Chamberlain Emerald, Troy Pride Greer, Thomas Jones Lawrence, Nick Graves Lexington, Miles Copperning of Northwestern, and Chris Smith of South Point. Defensive linemen, Tyrone Kelly Camden, Javon Kinlaw Goose Creek, Jabari Ellis Lake Marion, Trayvon Hinton Northwestern, Miracle Diggs Seneca, Niles Pinckney Whale Branch. It's a good-looking defensive line with Kinlaw and Pinckney in there, and Ellis as well. It's a good-looking group. Linebackers, Trey Smalls, Hanahan, Datavius Wilson, Hartsville, Torrey Delisline of Hillcrest, Jeremiah Maddox of Hilton Head, Rashad Bird of North Augusta, TJ Brunson of Richland Northeast, and Jeremiah Ferguson, Southside. The offensive linemen, Drew Wilson, Bamberg Earhart, Cade Stewart, Daniel, Adonis Seeley, Dylan, John Simpson, Fort Dorchester, DeMarcus Gilmore, Newberry, Chandler Farrell, Somerville, Torrey Boone of Westwood, Chris McCarthy of Westwood. The kicker is Matthew Gravely of Pick. The quarterbacks, Colin Hill of Dorman and Austin Scott of Spartanburg. The running backs, Tavian Feaster of Spartanburg and Kevin Brown of Wando. The tight end, Evan Vaughn of Belton Honeypath. And the receivers, Chavis Dawkins of Burns, Brian Edwards of Conway, Dorian Lindsay of Greer, Samuel Denmark of Hanahan, Jason Hopper of Lexington, Larry Collins of Lower Richland, and Matthew Martin from Westside. That is your South Carolina Shrine Bowl roster for this season. As far as some of the folks on the North Carolina roster who have made commitments to South Carolina or Clemson, USC commitment, Peter Leota, offensive lineman from Asheville. Clemson commitment, Sean Pollard, an offensive lineman from Pinecrest High School in North Carolina. And Clemson wide receiver commitment, Cornell Powell from J.H. Rose in Greenville, North Carolina. So there you go. Those are the ones on the North Carolina team who have committed to either Clemson or South Carolina. Their quarterbacks will be Austin Kendall from Cuthbertson High School and Chaz Surratt from East Lincoln. And running backs will be B.J. Emmons from Freedom, Abdul Adams from Hillside, and Kennedy McCoy from North Davidson. Their receivers will include DeAndre Overton, a Clemson target who was at Clemson Saturday night. He's from Greensboro. I mentioned Cornell Powell. Also, Taj Deans from Southern Nash, and Devon from Mount Tabor. There you go. Shrine Bowl teams. North-South squads will be announced in a couple of weeks. Back to your calls in a moment. We are back in Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Here on a Monday night, 800-956-7266. That's our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. You know, we have a lot of differences on this program because everybody's passionate about their team. But whether you are a South Carolina fan or a Clemson fan or a fan of another team in our state, we can all agree, all across the state, all South Carolina college football fans can agree on Founders Federal Credit Union. They have a convenient location on USC's campus, plus an office coming soon to Clemson. Founders is indeed a sure fan favorite. So visit relaxjoinfounders.com. That's relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. We continue with your phone calls here on Sports Talk. David Shelton coming up in a little bit, talk a little high school football, a little Shrine Bowl perhaps, and might work in a couple of other things for you tonight. Maybe a little Steve Spurrier from his conference call yesterday, maybe a little Deshaun Watson from earlier today. As we get back to your calls, and it is Bear in York. Hello, Bear. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey, guys. How are y'all?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing good. Hey, just going to what someone alluded to earlier about South Carolina and how the season's going with those guys. How does a 4-5 win season, to me, that's the barrel they're staring down right now. How detrimental do you think that is to the program? And knowing Spurrier how he is, he's not going to walk away. So what does the program need to do? Because Tanner, it makes you wonder who has the power there. Is it Tanner? Is it Spurrier? Because you don't come off a 7-6 season and follow it with a 4-5 win season and just say, okay, we'll get them next year. So where do they go from there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Ray Tanner is not going to fire Steve Spurrier. Nobody's going to fire Steve Spurrier. And it's not a power thing, I don't believe. It's a respect thing. Tanner's been there before. I mean, he was the best coach in college baseball for how many years? So he knows what it's like to be in that position, and he knows the respect that he earned, and he knows that Spurrier has earned that respect. He's also earned the benefit of the doubt as well. All that being said, people today don't want you living on your laurels, and they don't want you coaching on what you did 15, 20 years ago or 5 years ago. They want it today. They want it done right, and they want it done right today. And, Spurrier has got to shake some things up, and he's got to, he's got to indicate publicly that he knows what's going on and that he has a hand on this thing. Some of his answers after the games and his conference calls and his news conferences, it just sounds to me like a disconnect. Yeah. It's like a disconnect, and you can't be disconnected as the head coach. And again, I'm an outside observer. We all are, for the most part. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going through his head, and I don't know what happens behind closed doors. But we had these kind of conversations a few years ago about Spurrier, about people wanting to see the Steve Spurrier from his Florida days where he ran that offense, he called the plays. There was no doubt about whose fingerprints were on the game plan. And I think we're back at that point now where people don't know who, if anybody, is running the offense.
And I'll say this right now, from where I'm sitting, and even before the Missouri game, when Spurrier was saying this isn't my offense, and he was asked about how the play calling goes, and he kept saying, I don't really know how it works. I guess the head coach has a headset on, and he offers up some advice, and if it's a bad play, it's on me. If it's a good play, it's all of us. You said corner disconnect, and sitting where I am now, I would be shocked if Steve Spurrier does not announce his retirement sometime between now and the end of the year. I don't know if it's going to be during the season or if he'll wait till after the season, but I would be shocked. He's not going to get fired because he's not going to let himself. Do
you really mean that, or are you just trying to be a shock jock?
No, I'm not trying to be a shock jock. I would be shocked if he's not. If he's not, he can't fix this overnight. And last year, his whole mantra was, we got some good players on the way. We've got some really good players on the way that we like a lot. We've got some good players on the way that are going to come in here and help us. Well, those guys, some of them didn't even make it because, A, they didn't close on their recruiting class. Those guys bounced and said, I don't know what's going on with that program. I don't know what's going on with Steve Spurrier. I'm leaving. So he doesn't have that to fall back on now. Their talent level has dropped. They're playing walk-ons in significant roles. He's not going to hang around and do this. And to fix it, it would mean letting go a lot of guys on his staff, which he should have done last year. He should have done a bigger shakeup, restructured their recruiting. They didn't make the changes. They weren't a John Hoke away from getting back to 11 wins. And those are mistakes that you're not going to be able to fix overnight. He's 70 years old. He looks old now. I mean, Steve Spurrier always used to seem young, and he's on my side. He looks like an old man now on the sidelines. And I know he's still in good shape. I'm not knocking him physically, but he just, when you're on that Sunday call, he's hoarse. He can barely talk after those calls now. And he says, he says it. I've been screaming and yelling. And I just think that he's at that stage where he's going to go, you know what?
But can you see him walk away as a loser?
No.
Well, he's going to have to, because he's not going to, he's not going to turn this thing around this year. They're not going to win 6 games this year. And maybe he will. I suspect it could happen, honestly, almost any time over the next few weeks, where he's just going to say, this is my last year. And that might actually be the best thing for South Carolina if he announced, hey, this is my last year, and we're going to turn it over to somebody else at the end. We're happy where I did it. Maybe I don't know if he would need to walk away and let somebody do it on an interim basis, but coaching changes are difficult, and South Carolina has not planned for this well. I think they had a chance last year to say, you know what, let's bring in a guy that could at least take over the program. There's nobody on that staff right now that you could promote and take over. When Clemson went through its change, they promoted Dabo Swinney on an interim basis and gave him an on-the-job tryout, and then he was able to get the job, and that worked out great for them. South Carolina is not really in that spot right now. They could give somebody a crack at it. They could give Steve Spurrier Jr. or G.A. Mangus or Sean Elliott a crack at it, but I just do not see this time next year us talking about Steve Spurrier coaching the Gamecocks. I would be shocked, and that's not based on anything I've heard. That's based on me observing Steve Spurrier over the past decade plus. He does not seem like a guy that's going to do this. He was never planning on coaching into his 70s. Never was. He's there. He had some great runs, but I think he knows that his best days at South Carolina are behind him. And why sit and watch this thing go straight into the ground? Get out now and go about your business.
All right. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Thank you for your phone call. Lines have now opened up for the first time tonight. If you want to get through to us, 800-956-7266. You concur with K-Mac?
Well, I would tell K-Mac this.
He's right there. You can look at it.
No, one of the feelings I have is he won't quit because he thinks he can fix it. Now, part of me saying that is the fact that I'm closer to 70 than K-Mac is to 70.
Yes, you are.
And you look at things a little bit different. And I think probably even though you look older from the outside, the fire still burns in you. And I think the fire still burns in him. He wouldn't have been exploding about the officiating if the fire wasn't still burning in him. I think he was calling some of those plays, even though they were bad plays, trying to get them to win the football game. I would be greatly surprised if he were to step down after this year. I think he would want to fix it and then step down. What fixing it is, I don't know. Is fixing it 8, 9 wins? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I think they'd love to get 8, 9 wins right now. The only thing I can say about fixing it is that, I think from my own observations that help is on the way. When I look at their 2016 class, and I know this is the same thing that they said with the class that arrived now, and they're getting some help from some people in the class it's in now, but and it starts with the quarterback. And look, I'm a Lorenzo Nunez fan, to be honest with you. The little bit I've seen of this kid, I think there's reason for optimism if he can be coached up and everything channeled into the right direction, but he's got to have some help on the offense too.
His demeanor is infectious. I like the way he goes.
It's embarrassing. It should be embarrassing to that offense how much of the offense he has created in his 2 games.
Yes.
Because that shouldn't really happen with a true freshman quarterback. Back in a moment.
Scherzer throws second no-hitter, and then Williams fired the next day.
Okay, we're back. 800-956-7266. Going to catch up with David Shelton here in just a couple of minutes, but let's keep it on the phone lines while they are smoking tonight. Danny and Casey, you're up next here on Sports Talk. Good to have you with us.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
Hey, who was the one that just predicted that Spurrier was on this year?
That would be K-Mac.
Yeah, retire. Yeah, I think he'll
Retire?
ride off into the sunset.
K-Mac, I totally disagree with. He's going to go out a winner. And he's always been a winner. He's never been a loser. He'll make this right, and he'll go out a winner. And I got a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts bet on.
Oh,
he'll go out a winner.
I want to be on your side of that argument for Krispy Kreme. Yes, sir.
Hey, I got you, man.
Okay.
You just take up the bet, and I guarantee you Spurrier will be here next year.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll see. Listen, I don't disagree with him. I don't know what to think. I do tend to lean towards the caller more than what you say, K-Mac, because I don't think Spurrier can walk away a loser either. And he's not getting $25 million to walk away like he did with the Redskins when he did walk away as a loser.
He doesn't need the money.
But that was more out of frustration with ownership and realizing that was going nowhere.
What makes you think they're going to be a winner?
Brandon McElwain coming in, if he's everything he's purported to be, he's the kind of quarterback that Spurrier can coach. An in the pocket quarterback with a great arm who can throw all the passes, but also has escapability. So, but that might mean another couple of years of losing before they can get it right.
75-year-old Steve Spurrier going through these trying times of watching his team.
You can ask him tomorrow. You'll see him tomorrow. You can ask him.
I mean, he did not calling the plays.
Tell him you got donuts riding.
Hey, Steve, you want to settle a donut bet for me here?
All right, real quick. We go to the phones, and it's Dan in North Augusta. Lieutenant Dan, how are you?
Yes, Lieutenant Dan reporting in.
Yes.
I've been listening to this conversation. When you say K-Mac maybe a shock jock, I might tend to agree there. I totally disagree with his scenario that Spurrier retires because, if you listen to that Golf Channel Faraday show recently, he really enjoys the football season. He looks forward to it. I mean, he enjoys his off season with golf and with the family, going to the beach and that kind of thing. But I think with allowing his assistant coaches to help and with the way things got set up, he enjoys it. And he's young. He talks about working out, about he feels, 15, 20 years younger. I disagree with K-Mac that he looks old because you look at the K-State coach, he looks old, but you look at Spurrier, I think for his age, he looks remarkably young for a 70-year-old.
He's in great shape for 70. I'll give you that. And that Faraday piece, by the way, was filmed during the summer before they got clubbed by Georgia and these other people. But, he doesn't look like he's having fun. That's for darn sure right now. This guy does not like losing. Does not like losing.
All right, we got to hit a break. Thanks for the call. Back in a moment. Back we are, Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. We come to you from downtown Main Street, Columbia, because we are South Carolina's Sports Talk show of Main Street, South Carolina, from the mountains to the coast and all points. Time to talk some high school football for a few minutes with David Shelton, a presentation of Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau, you could be saving a whole lot of money. Even if you've received a quote before, rates are now more competitive than ever. Get a free quote today from your local Farm Bureau insurance agent. We welcome David Shelton to the program. And again, unfortunately, we've got one of these weeks in high school football where we still have many more games to go before the week is complete.
Well, yeah, and unfortunately, we've got a little while longer before we're going to get those games played. It's just not an ideal situation. You know, it reminds me very much of when Hugo came through, and everything was just thrown in disarray. This could even be, you know, in some respects, I've tweeted out, this is, in some respects, is even worse than Hugo, because Hugo came and went. You know, it came through overnight, and you could begin rebuilding. Well, it's still raining.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and you can't move on. You can't, you know, the water has nowhere to go. You have dams and levees breaking there in Columbia. I've seen some unbelievable pictures and videos, and probably worse than it is in Houston. But we do have the Ashley River. We have a lot of rivers around here that are overflowing, or whatever you want to call it, and complete neighborhoods are just getting destroyed. And, you know, it kind of makes you wonder how important football is. But I told somebody today, football is important because it is part of our fabric in this state. High school football is a big deal. So, you know, people are going, well, you know, other things are more important. Yes, they are, but we still have to, you know, go on living, and we got to get these things figured out. The problem is they can't get them figured out, and it's going to do a lot of weird things. I talked to a coach today that said he may play Wednesday and Saturday, and I literally fell out of my chair. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot now. There'll be games in Charleston tonight or tomorrow. Wednesday's the earliest they'll play any, and try to start rescheduling games for the weekend and Monday night. And, you know, eventually it will catch up. But getting through this early stage is the real problem for a lot of these schools. You know, Columbia is going to have the problem this weekend, whereas they got all their night. This Friday, they're going to have a lot of cancellations because of just the devastating water there. Yeah.
On top of that, they can't practice. I've already seen like Dreer and Lower Richland and schools like that. They can't even get together to practice. So that's
this.
Problem.
I just talked to North Charleston's coach, Chris Rieger. He's going to play Academic Magnet on Wednesday, assuming the district lets them go to school and lets them play. They will not have practice in 6 days. So he said it's not so much when we play the game, but we'd like to have a day to kind of get them back and make sure everything, you know, not necessarily game planning, but, you know, you're a football player and you don't do anything for 6 days. You probably need to get out and run around a little bit. But they won't let them have like a day like Wednesday to practice and play Thursday, because again, it's going to back everything up. And these are region games. The one big thing I've been on all day is some of these non-region games that are still left to play, they need to be canceled. But some coaches are kind of pushing it to where they have to play those games, where one team may not want to play and the other team says, no, you're going to play because there's playoff points involved and all that. Well, you know, if you win your games in your region, you're going to make the playoffs. So that really doesn't play a factor. That half a point doesn't mean anything. You know, that are having to play a non-region game now this week in Charleston, games that don't matter, and then come right back and play a region game that does matter on 3 or 4 days. It's just not fair, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense.
All right, let me turn our attention to the Shrine Bowl team announced today and your overview of it, and especially the quarterbacks, where, of course, 2 fine quarterbacks were picked, but another fine one who I think we all thought was a shoo-in going back a couple of years, Avery McCall from Dillon, not picked.
Yeah, I was a little shocked. We were tweeting back and forth last night. I think I said they would take 2 because it's too hard to get 3 guys ready in a week to play in that game. It just doesn't make sense. So I figured, Austin Scott was going to be on the Shrine Bowl team. From Spartanburg, I felt like the other spot would either be Colin Hill, Duncan at Ashley Ridge, or Avery McCall. And logic would say, okay, Avery McCall, he would be the guy. Not that Colin Hill doesn't deserve it, and not that Stephen Duncan doesn't deserve it, but you just kind of playing it through your head. You're going to give a guy that's won 3 state titles a shot to play in the Shrine Bowl. Well, it didn't happen. And I said this on Bobby today: Colin Hill and Austin Scott will play very well in the Shrine Bowl. They will not be the reason that South Carolina loses a game if they lose the game. Mm-hmm. However, there's another kid right there in the Midlands, Batesburg-Leesville running back, Terrence Wilson, who's had an unbelievable career, again, on the 2A level, but really a really fine running back. Didn't get picked. It's going to happen every year. Nick McLeod at South Point, a great defensive back wide receiver, didn't get picked. There's going to be guys left off. So, but the quarterback situation, they're going to be fine. But I think everybody was a little surprised that Avery McCall was one of the quarterbacks, either one of 2 or one of 3.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, I like the defensive line, and I like the wide receiver core. I mean, when you've got Edwards and you've got Denmark and you've got Collins and Hopper, you've got some very good receivers there, and you got some size there at wide receiver. Like the defensive line, linebackers, et cetera. Defense looks pretty good personnel-wise. What about the offensive line? A couple of guys from Westwood, big guys. I know Torrey Boone's one of the biggest linemen in the state, and, of course, John Simpson has a great reputation. What do you think of the offensive line selections from tackle to tackle?
Yeah, I thought they did about as best they could. It's not a tremendously strong year for offensive linemen in the state. Drew Wilson at Bamberg is I think a Georgia Southern commit. Chandler Farrell's the center from Somerville, is not being recruited, but he's not a bad football player. He certainly is one of the better centers, and maybe the Shrine Bowl will help him get recruited. But it's not a deep year, and so they kind of took the best guys they thought were available. I really can't. Looking at it, I couldn't think of one offensive lineman they left off that just kind of surprised me. And generally around the state, Westwood is considered to have the best offensive line. When you talk to coaches, and they got 2 guys off the offensive line on there. So, they got the best guys they could. Hopefully nobody gets hurt. Mm-hmm. And they, because like I said, the pool going deeper is not real deep in terms of high quality linemen. So, if they all stay healthy through the rest of their season and get in the Shrine Bowl, I think it's going to be a good line. And hopefully the quarterbacks can make the line better, because it looks like they're going to, they have Tavian Feaster at running back, who can also line up and catch balls. Zafari Words from Newberry's a quarterback, but a very good athlete. It could be a receiver and on return games. So, they did a good job. I say it every year. Hey, they did what they thought was best to win the game, and not always fair to everybody, but they can't 100 kids. They got to take 44.
Mm-hmm. Hard to argue against the process standpoint, because more often than not, they've won the ball game. So what they're doing is working. So but there's always, the good thing is that those good players who we think should have made the Shrine Bowl, who didn't, will be in the North-South game. And that will make, look at the quarterbacks we'll have now for the North-South game, and Avery McCall and the Duncan kid. I just hope, I don't know if Dillon would be considered North. I guess they're South.
Yeah, Dillon's South.
It's too bad they can't be on opposing teams.
Yeah, but you got Colin Sneed at Hillcrest in the Upper State.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the 5. There's 6 or 7 really good quarterbacks. So the North-South game is going to be okay. They're going to have plenty of good players, especially at the quarterback position. Okay,
David, stay dry down there, my friend, and we will talk to you later in the week.
Okay, man. Y'all take care.
Thank you, buddy. David Shelton, High School Sports Report, Charleston Post and Courier, and Sports Talk. Back in a moment. Monday night here on Sports Talk. Time for some Monday night football talk, professional football-wise, Panther-wise, with the voice of the Panthers. Mick Mixon, the Panthers go into their bye week 4-0 after a 37-23 win at Tampa Bay. Mick, big offensive performance, the kind of dominating win that you like to have on the road, and going into the bye week, everybody's got to be feeling good.
I guess so, Corn. I'm just honored that you guys have stopped talking about the Clemson-Notre Dame game long enough to fit in a little Panther news. I assume a lot of college football fans have been excited to be on your show the first part of this week and tonight. I mean, the Panthers, it's hard to know what to make really of that game Sunday because the weather was so herky-jerky. It was sunny. It was rainy. It was raining while it was sunny. The Panthers got out total yardage 411 to 200 and something, but the stats are really a little misleading because Carolina had 5 turnovers, or Tampa Bay turned it over 5 times to the Panthers rather. So a lot of those fields were short fields. But yeah, the Panthers are pretty happy. I mean, 4-0 and not even playing their best football yet.
Yeah, and Cam had a really sharp game last week. Maybe not so sharp statistically, though he was productive yesterday.
He ran the ball very intelligently. The Panthers' ground game is having a harder time getting going without Cam Newton. I mean, some of the rushing stats without Cam would be tough, but Newton is just efficient, Corn. I think the Panther coaches feel as though he's turned a corner in terms of his decision making, his ball security. He was just a very just a bloodless kind of just a calculated performance yesterday where he seemed like he was having fun the entire time. Football did not seem that difficult to him. And then how about Josh Norman? Your boy continues to provoke and bring up almost every possible emotion in head coach Ron Rivera, from pure joy to incredible anger.
Yeah. But 2 more picks will make him happy.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know, man. The pick 6 and the celebration that engendered some ill will. There's a little bit of a loophole in the NFL rule, Corn, as you guys know. You can, so long as you're not in the end zone. I mean, if you're out of the end zone, you can do a celebration like that. Or if you don't have the ball, you can do the riding the horse kind of thing. So Josh will get it cleaned up.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about this, I guess, before the end of the season, that, boy, you'd love to have the bye week a little bit further down. But with the walking wounded right now, how welcome is this particular 5th week of the season being a bye week, now knowing that you're going to Seattle a couple of weeks rested and maybe a lot of the walking wounded healed up?
You said it, Pro. I mean, this time last year we were getting ready to imitate the not the walking wounded, but the walking dead, as the Panthers were 2-0, then 3-2, and then couldn't win a game for a while. But you're right on it in terms of the road trip to Seattle. I think the most significant part of the premise of your question was going west. The bye week precedes the West Coast trip, which can be taxing. So it should be a fresh and rejuvenated Panther team that will fly out to Seattle, and then we'll get a good look at Seattle tonight against Detroit.
Yeah, you talk about the turnovers, and the staff had to really like the fact that you scored on every turnover every time you started in Tampa Bay's side of the field. You got something out of it, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown. So they took advantage of those opportunities.
Sure did. Yeah, just kind of kicking gamed him a little bit to death, Corn. And one of the great plays of the season so far, one of my all-time favorite plays, was Graham Gano, who lost his helmet, but then he formed up Bobby Rainey and tackled him, threw him to the ground, got up, shoved him, as if to say, hey, I'm number 9, Graham Gano. Don't ever run my way again.
Those kickers, boy, you got to look out for them. Clemson's kicker created a fumble against Notre Dame Saturday night. They like to stick their nose in there sometime.
I know. They don't want their helmets to get polished. They like having those little opponent stripes of paint on there to let you know they've been in there mixing it up.
All right, so with the off week, does the band get to make an appearance somewhere now?
No, we've been booking some gigs for December pretty aggressively, but I, like a dumbhead, Corn, I accepted a MC kind of speaking engagement thing for Saturday, so Little Pink Houses of Hope. I'm trying to keep my head until this Make the World a Better Place thing blows over.
Yeah, good idea. I did hear you working the bar mitzvah in December, so maybe I'll see you there.
Looking forward to it. We know the horror, by the way. We've played at several weddings.
I'm sure you have. Thank you, Mick.
Thanks, guys.
All right, the voice of the Panthers and erstwhile drummer, Mick Mixon. Can you see Mick back there on the drums doing his little things? Mm-hmm. Mick the stick with the sticks in his hands. Probably quite a sight to see. Okay. I think he's the drummer. Pretty sure he's the drummer of his band. I have to ask him that next time. I don't think he's lead guitar or bass. I think he's the drummer boy. All right, we'll hit a break and squeeze in a couple of more calls when we come back. All right, we approach the end of tonight's program. Tomorrow, a Talking Tuesday. And we hope that everything will move forward per normal tomorrow. USC having its news conference at noon with Steve Spurrier over at Williams-Brice. Williams-Brice is not underwater, by the way, for those who maybe saw a photo, an alleged photo on Twitter today, not underwater.
Don't believe everything you see on Twitter.
But there is no water. No drinking water at USC. And I wonder about the football team and showering and taking care of those guys, but I'm sure they've got a plan for that. And we'll have Dabo Sweeney tomorrow as well from his presser. Tigers have to refocus now. They've got to flush Notre Dame, flush it, and get ready for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech will be a team that has been a major disappointment here of late, but they still have an excellent option quarterback and a dangerous offensive team. And Clemson's this is that trap game that you have to worry about if you're going to win the national championship. You run into these situations after a huge high, having to turn around and maybe generate that emotion that came so easily last weekend. Now you've got to kind of dig down and generate it. And I'm sure that's what Dabo was harping on his players about. Let's hit the phones one final time before we say good night. And we are going to welcome in, I have no idea. Where are we going?
Jones in Greenwood.
Jones in Greenwood. Hello, Jones. How are you?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
And I've been waiting for a while to talk, and I understand how it works. Let me say what I got to say. The chance that you have to respond is going to be, not much, but maybe I'll call back tomorrow.
Sure, go ahead.
First of all, I've been a long-time Gamecock. Follow the program. Don't know all that much. You guys do a great job. you're impartial, and you're objective, and you're knowledgeable. So I appreciate what you have to say.
I hear a butt coming.
There is a definite butt coming.
Yeah.
No, there's not a but at all for you guys. There's on top of that, I want to say, I'm the first guy that will tell you that Steve Spurrier is not only the winningest coach in South Carolina's football program, but in my opinion, the best coach they've ever had. He has from the beginning, why not us? Make improvements to the stadium, paint this place up, get it looking like something. We're out here in the middle. I mean, the guy is a football genius, and he's been there. He understands what you have to be to succeed in the Southeastern Conference. So I don't know what happened, what's gone wrong, where the disconnect is, but there is a clear disconnect. I'm not about to say it's his fault, and I will also say that I followed Ray Tanner's baseball. He is the best coach, and here we are running out of time. I'm going to call back and tell you this because I'm not trying to take your time, but I want you guys to know I've got what you have to say about what's going on with Spurrier. He's much more likely to leave than he is to try to rebuild this thing at this point in time because it is way down somehow.
Okay. All right. Listen, I hate to do it to you. Call us back. We have got to go. We're out of time. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night. Be safe. We'll see you tomorrow.